Perhaps several years ago, I posted on YouTube a meditation on breathing called Anapana. And it's not easy, actually. Natural breathing, if you pay attention to be natural, then you're putting your consciousness on it. So the natural breathing has to let go of your consciousness. And when you get the groove of it, you get the peaceful sense while your mind is clear, no mind, empty mind, and you can see the detail of how the breathing take effect in your physiology. So the point of that is to relate the consciousness to the unconscious movement of breathing. And the breathing is a good place to know that you can change the breathing consciously, or you can let the unconscious breathing or natural breathing to take place. So the interrelationship between those two, you start to learn. In fact, in Vipassana meditation, I took a 10-day course. That was the first 3 days and a half. We focused on it. It's a huge effort, but I learned a lot to be able to detect all the subtleties of how difficult or easy to control breathing or not control and let the natural breathing to take place, but you're still aware. So awareness of the change in your unconscious activity or conscious activity is critical to know yourself. So that's one point that I shared in this video. The purpose of the video is just to share a few examples of techniques. Nothing to do with dogma or anything, but if you can be playful to look into it, you may discover more about yourself, not in your mind, but also relating to your activities in your body, including the breathing and even blood circulating or inner body sensation. All these can be very important if you can connect to it. Because when certain things happen in your mind, it affects the body. So the mind and body is connected. Actually, it is one, except the modern day work, the daily stuff we do, we put more emphasis on the mind, but not connecting to the body, which is, in my view, unhealthy, because body is living and the mind is away from living, and if there's a disconnect, mind is occupied in something, and the stomach may be hurting, and the blood pressure is going up wild, but you may not notice it. So to live is not to live in the mind, but to live in your body. Conscious, unconscious, connection, awareness, and when the things change, you need to be on top of it, especially when you start to go into this craziness, suffering. Something happened in your mind or in the past, and you start to play with it. And one thought pops up, the next thought, and the next thought, next image, what happened, and then what happened, and what can happen. So it's endless. They call it monkey mind. And you don't want to go into there, so that the earlier you direct the movement into abnormal situation, if I call abnormal being not natural, and you get caught up in this suffering mode, go into the deeper caught up of your mind, which you want to avoid. So when I mention about the breathing, the Anapana, the meditation on breathing, that is just one example of it. And on this display, I mentioned about muscle tone, loosening the muscle tone. When you are tight, it's not so good for your body. Usually your mind is narrowly focused on something. You don't see the big picture. So you want to be healthy in the way of living, but at the same time, by not focusing too narrowly in your mind, you can actually access to the unknown potentials that you have, which is in your mind or deeper in your consciousness. So the new idea can pop up instead of getting lost. Like playing the chess game or I play Go game, ego, same thing. So that's a general description of the technique related to breathing and the muscle. But for the rest of the time I have, which is not too much, I want to just catch a few more. The one top left is the guy Saichi. He's chanting Namu Amida Butsu. And that sounds like a crazy Japanese idea. But the idea of Namu Amida Butsu is I will let go of myself for the bowl of Amida Buddha. And it's kind of like an anchoring process so that when certain things happen, Saichi may say Namu Amida Butsu, maybe talking out loud or just quiet or just think about it. And that triggers or anchor yourself to be normalized in the natural state. As much as breathing or paying attention to muscle may do the same thing. Some people use chanting, and Namu Amida Butsu is to let go of yourself for the law of nature, or Amida Buddha, or God, whatever the case may be, which is more powerful or more intelligence, possibly, that you can get the idea from, so that you can live your life better without getting into trouble. So that's one example. Top center, I have this picture, and this is one of the idea I popped up. And actually, I have a YouTube video on this. One day, I woke up and I had a beautiful sea, ocean outside, and what to do. Then I thought with this idea, if this is my last day on earth, what would I do? And I thought that's a very good idea, because if you don't pay attention to freely thinking about what's most important in my life, one way to do it is to assume today is the last day. Or you can assume only 1 hour or 30 minutes as you wish. But the point is, instead of driven by the habitual pattern of doing things, you click off. So you may do this every weekend or every other day, whatever the sequence, so that you can realign yourself. Am I in line to how I spend my time? If it's such a precious time that I have on this earth, is this the right thing to do? And if you take a look at the video on the title "Last Day," spending the last day on my on the planet or something like that, you can see more interesting story to go with it. So that's another idea of little technique pointing to realize what's important versus what's urgent, or what is in your habitual pattern of doing things. So you're refreshing your attitude, the mind, the behavior, and change the habit, and therefore your destiny can be changed. Top right is an interesting idea I popped up maybe a couple of weeks ago. I play what they call pickleball, and it's like a tennis but much smaller scale. And it's fairly competitive, and it takes some skill, and you have to focus as you play any competitive game. And the score goes up and down, and you have a partner usually, and you get kind of a pressure. And if the game is tight, how you can focus. So one idea I came up with this. Actually, I tried the breathing, but it didn't work well. So I was thinking what can be done, because I want to calm down my, mental attitude, how to do my, good play. What is the best way to refresh myself for that moment? And I got only perhaps 10 seconds to do it. And in that 10 seconds, I thought, okay, let's picture there's a balloon above my head, And I can picture that. It's like in the cartoon, I can picture. There's nothing in the balloon. Typically, the balloon indicates some notes or the comment, but in this balloon, there's nothing. And what it did was that you basically empty your mind. Because to create the image of balloon above your head, in the middle of the playing the games, that requires some focus and even a couple of seconds of focus of creating that would make you to be, or in my case, for me to be very open and refreshed, as if this is the first game or the first stroke, or each stroke you want to do the right thing, but especially in the serving or the first ball that you hit, you want to be very calm and quiet. And this kind of activity of popping up the fake balloon above your head in your imagination, and if you want to try it, it may work. It may not work, but being playful can be a sign of your creativity. And in my case, this has been working quite well. Previously, I was looking down the ground and being quiet or whatever. It didn't look so good, perhaps, if you're watching me from outside. But this is like you're just walking and playfully thinking about it, imagining it, and be ready. And you are much more refreshed. You may be able to apply those ideas in different situations, but that's the idea I applied in playing the pickleball. The bottom picture is the woman in suffering. And the Buddha's teaching is often connected to life being the suffering. You can look at yourself as a victim, or you can go beyond your mind to find the solution from the law of the universe. That's what I call. So here I say there's a will of the universe functioning. So just to think about what it can do, because that's the master. You think you are the master, or your mind is all you can use. That's very narrow. So go beyond that, just like any other technique. In this case, think of the will of the universe, law of the universe, how wonderful it is. If you look at the tree, it is manifesting the law of nature, and our body is living, our mind may be suffering. But let's connect to the law of the universe, the will of the universe. Idea of the melting into the nature may work. So those are different examples. Maybe I'll come up with more and share with you. My suggestion is, depending on what you like or interested, just try one or two and see what happens. Last comment is that you can try this to find the state of being natural, following the law of nature, and then use the mind. But to use the mind, it helps to have that natural state always with you. So you practice this and practice this in action and to see how it works. So you go back and forth to see accumulating or learning the skill, develop the habit, and see it works, see how it works, and to check how it's working and then modify it or come up with your own program to fix whatever the issue that you want to address, and have a long-term view of doing this. The game is usually long, hopefully long in your life, and more you can address to come up with a good habit that can benefit a lot down the road. So it's an interactive process of trying certain technique, see the result, and check the result, and understand what's going on. It's kind of like a plan, do, check, act cycle. You plan something and doing and checking what happens and figuring out what you have learned. If it's good, so and change. Or you may put those into your daily or planning sheet and keep certain process going while you may do, what do you call that, journal. You can write a journal of how things are happening. And I have shared how to do this journal, daily journal, Black Dot Exercise and others. You might want to look into those YouTube videos I posted elsewhere. Have fun and hope you get something interesting going. And if you have found something interesting, or if you have any question, please let me know. Thank you.